Alex Murdaugh was sentenced to 27 years for financial crimes he committed after pleading guilty. And this was the plea deal that was negotiated between the prosecution and the defense. He was actually sentenced yesterday in front of Judge Newman, and Judge Newman presided over Alex Murdaugh's trial that ended in March, with Alex being sentenced to life in prison for killing his wife and son. I just admire Judge Newman so much, and I wanted to listen to some of his parting words during the sentencing yesterday. So this is Court TV, and here he's being asked to step up. Judge Newman's going to speak to him for the sentencing. So let's take a listen.
It was September of 2021 when the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court assigned me to preside over the pending investigations involving the various offenses that you are being investigated for, initially including these financial crimes and the murder cases. And I have lived with this case now for over 2 years, and I have 34 days left before active retirement. And after imposing this sentence, your life will continue. I will turn the page and leave you behind.
Wow, that's Judge Newman. Whoa, always imparting that stern wisdom, right? He's like, we're gonna turn the page. I'm gonna turn the page. 34 days until he retires. Wow, incredible.
You're quite an enigma, a person that many of us thought we knew. And as I stated earlier, I can only recall you as being a fun-loving, happy person. I've never seen you sad. I've never seen you being anything other than a friendly, caring person. And it's so disappointing to see you again in this setting. I believe the last time we saw each other and you were not in jail was at a conference when you were poolside having a good time. And as it turns out, that was a couple of months after the passing of your wife and son. But you were having a good time, made nothing of it. And then the Labor Day weekend events occurred, and next thing I know, I'm assigned to preside over all of your matters.
So, for those of you who don't know, Alex Murdaugh was is an attorney. Well, he's probably been, I'm sure he's disbarred. So he was an attorney for many years. He comes from a long line of attorneys, very respected prosecutors, in fact, in South Carolina. And so for him to not only, I mean, like, he's dealing with people who know him personally. So, like, the judge saw him right before he went into, fairly soon before going into court. And so it's just so, like he said, the judge said it was disappointing to see him in this state. He was well respected. And in fact, in the crimes, in the financial crimes, the impact statements from the victims are people who he stole money from, people who were vulnerable, that he was helping to get money for them. And they trusted him. So he was in a position of power and trust. And he not only stole for them, he betrayed their trust. So yes, it is quite disappointing.
Not on your matters, but others as well. And we started out with over 100 charges, indictments against various folks. And we've whittled that down to just a handful outstanding. and I'm happy to turn the page and turn not turn the remnants over to anyone else, but to certainly turn over anything pending against you to someone else. It's been said that these are white collar offenses. I've never had that distinction. I've never thought of it that way. I've looked at criminal offenses as criminal offenses. You know, 3 property crimes in South Carolina is you you can get 10 years in prison. People have gotten 10 years for shoplifting, third offense. I've sent people into retirement for committing of criminal offenses over and over and over again. But I've never thought of it as being a white collar offense. Having had employees do embezzlement, church secretaries stole money, preachers stolen money, many offenses. But I never draw a distinction between a violent crime and other crimes. Certainly, the law makes a distinction, and many violent crimes are non-parole offenses. The plea I'm accepting with you, you must serve 85% of the time. The parties have indicated that they are the victims to the extent that they can be called victims. That's my preferred term for the group of people who have been preyed upon or victimized. They've all indicated that they would like for the court to accept the negotiated sentence. It is a stern sentence. Question was asked, what kind of animal are you? You're an enigmatic person. I don't know that you understand yourself. What comes to mind is the young man that I sentenced to death penalty for killing a police officer and setting his body on fire. And though personally I was opposed to capital punishment, he was sentenced to death. And in writing up that sentence report, I concluded that he was heartless. He was just empty. And when I see you and I listen to you and I reflect on all that I've seen since being appointed, assigned to these cases, you come closest to that young man being empty. I don't see anything. I tried to reach you at sentencing in the other case. I've listened to you here today, and I don't see anything there. Hopefully something will emerge within your spirit, within your soul. Certainly, being a person of your age and intelligence and experience, you have a lot to offer to the people that you encounter on a daily basis in the institution. And I think is that.
So that's interesting. Um, so one, he's saying that the judge saying that he sees Murdoch as empty, and that's interesting, like a shell of a person, right? What's in his soul, what's in his heart, and so that's really interesting. And also, I thought it was really interesting that Murdoch is using his time in prison to help people, right? So hopefully that he can use his experience and his knowledge to help other inmates. Now, there's a chance that he's gonna be in prison with people that he has prosecuted against, that he put away. There's very strong possibility of that. So that could be really interesting as well. So maybe that's a way for him to, stay relevant, is to be of service and help people, and know that he can actually serve people by helping them, these inmates, rather than, offing him. So hopefully that, he can do a lot of good while he's in prison.
It's admirable that you've indicated that you will uh, help them and continue to try to do good by them. You'll certainly have a lot of opportunity to do that. As we look at it, all of us, none of us are perfect. Many of us do things that we shouldn't do. It's just unimaginable to me that you have done some of the things that you've done, and whether it's you or someone you become upon using drugs or through the process of just committing the crimes over and over the period of years. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know who I'm speaking to now.
So in the murder case, or the trial, the judge said, he's the monster. He referred to it as like, it's the monster that you become, because Murdaugh said that he didn't do it. And so the judge said, yeah, maybe you in your current state didn't do it, but maybe it was the monster you become after taking the drugs that you take. And here he's saying also, like, when you commit crimes, you know, that could turn you into a monster as well.
But being a person of power and influence, and the question is raised of what type of character do you have? Um, a person who would prey upon folks who are vulnerable and who are of a lower perceived estate than you, how you would prey upon those people who you say you love, and you would capitalize on a disparity of what you have versus what they had and what they need and what they desired. In my years, I know of no greater joy as a lawyer that I've had during my 47 years as a lawyer than the joy of having a satisfied client, of delivering good results for a client, and experiencing that joy with them. I can think of no greater joy than I've experienced, and being able to deliver on behalf of a client. And I'm sure you've experienced that joy as well, until you decided that the only joy you're concerned about was your own.
What I really like about Judge Newman is that he is such a well-spoken man. You can tell he really cares, and you can tell he really cares, but he's also stern and realistic. So he's saying, he's realistic about, like, you did all this, and it was obvious that you only cared about yourself in this. So he's willing to be realistic and caring, yet stern and realistic. So I think that's really, really wonderful, combination as a judge, because you could tell he's fair. He's been fair in these trials. I mean, he even knew of him. He even knew of Alex Murdaugh before, right? Like, I'm sure that they worked together at some point. And so he's been very, very neutral and impartial and fair in these trials.
I take no joy at all in imposing this sentence, but it is what it is. And you'll have to suffer the consequences of your acts, continue to suffer the consequences, and hopefully some good will come out of you as you move forward. There are a number of counts here, a number of indictments, and you'll get an individual sentence as to each one. On indictment, she has 4727 for money laundering. The sentence is 20 years. Obtaining signature of property by false pretenses, the sentence is 10 years. Second count of obtaining property by false pretenses, count 7, 10 years. Breach of trust with fraudulent intent, value more than $10,000, the sentence is 10 years. Another, obtaining property by false pretenses, count an indictment, 4730, count 4, sentence is 10 years. Money laundering on indictment, same indictment, count 5, sentence is 20 years. Money laundering, count 8 of that indictment, sentence is 20 years. Breach of trust with fraudulent intent, indictment number 32, count 1, sentence is 5 years. Money laundering under indictment number 33, count 2, the sentence is 20 years. Money laundering under indictment 34, count 2, the sentence is 20 years. Forgery, value $10,000 or more under indictment 35, count 5, the sentence is 10 years. Computer crimes under indictment 36, the sentence is 5 years. Breach of trust with fraudulent intent under indictment ending in 37, the sentence is 10 years. All those sentences will run concurrent with each other.
So there were multiple charges of wire fraud, forgery, computer crimes, and so they're ranging from 5 to 20 years. They're going to be concurrent, which means that the longest sentence was 20 years, and so they're all going to be so for all of those charges, there's going to be a 20-year cap on that amount. And they'll explain later, but it's 85%. He has to meet 85% of that sentence time.
Money laundering under indictment ending in 38, count 2, the sentence is 7 years consecutive to sentences previously stated.
So then it'll be a 20-year sentence for all those other ones, and then the 7-year for that other wire fraud will be consecutive. So he'll have a total of 27-year sentence, and he has to meet 85% of each of those. And that would be prior to going into parole.
4701, breach of trust with fraudulent intent, the sentence is 10 years concurrent. Breach of trust, fraudulent intent under indictment ending in 02, count 1, sentence is 10 years. Under indictment ending in 10, count 1, sentence is 5 years. concurrent. Money laundering in indictment ending in 23, count 3, the sentence is 20 years. In indictment ending 24, obtaining goods under false pretenses, sentence is 10 years. Willful intent to evade or defeat payment of taxes under indictment 34, sentences 5 years concurrent. You have one 20-year sentence and a consecutive 7-year sentence for a total sentence of 27 years. Most of the offenses pled to are serious offenses under the law, subjects you to the 3 strikes law. You are given credit for time served pursuant to section 241340 to be calculated by the South Carolina Department of Corrections. I think that completes this.
So he's been serving a couple of years at this point. And so he'll get from that 27-year sentence, he'll get reduced by whatever he's already served. So maybe it'll be about 25 years. He's got to meet 85% of that before he can even be eligible for parole. Now, the other thing is that he has 2 life sentences or life sentence. He's going to be in life in prison for the deaths of his wife and son. Now, that's under appeal. So the reason that they still have to do all of these other sentences and have all of these multiple sentences, I think, is that just making sure that he does get convicted and sentenced for each of those separate crimes. And also, if for whatever reason that other sentence gets, or that the case gets appealed, and let's say he is absolved or found somehow not guilty, then he'll be guilty and sentenced for these financial crimes, which he has pled guilty to.
Sentence, anything further regarding this sentence?
Your Honor, just for clarification, and I think the sentencing sheets reflect this, but he's got all those sentences concurrent for 20, yes. And then there's one 7-year consecutive sentence. So he's got a 27-year sentence, 85% parole eligible. I mean, max out.
Yes.
Right.
And it's reflected on the sentencing sheet.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Any comment about that, Mr. Waters or Mr.?
That is correct, Your Honor. There's 20 years at 85% and then a 7 at 85%. And again, those are no parole offenses, meaning got to be 85%.
Right.
Or more, depending on how he behaves.
That's the sentence of the court. Mr. Murdaugh, any final comments?
Yes, sir. I will just reiterate what I did say to all of you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Now it's interesting because the prosecutor said that he would be eligible for parole. That's what I heard anyway. At the 85%, once he served 85% of the sentence, and he said if assuming he behaves, and Murdaugh laughs. I mean, seriously, this guy. Wow. Anyway, I mean, I guess, maybe he has to find some levity in all of this, but it's quite sad. All of the people, it was like a web of lies, a web of victims in his life in a pretty short period of time. It's like he spiraled. And like Judge Newman had said in the other trial, was a monster, became a monster that nobody really, really knew. So that's the end of the sentencing. So what did you think? Did you like Judge Newman? Did you watch the other trial as well, this one and the previous trial? What are your thoughts? And what do you think about the sentencing of Alex Murdaugh? Do you believe that was sufficient for everything that he did? Do you think that he deserved more time? Was that enough time because he's also been sentenced to life in prison? Is this just, kind of like a formality? What do you think? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you learned something today, please like this video and please subscribe for more news on this developing story, as well as empowering survivors to share their stories, get their voice back, their power back, and just support those who need our help. Remember to stay safe, stay thriving, listen to your intuition. Make sure to keep it empowering. Bye for now.